Well, what I'm saying is that there are known knowns and that there are known unknowns, but there's also unknown unknowns. Things we don't know that we don't know.
What?
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker.
I know you've just seen that clip and you're wondering what the hell is going on. Why did you just watch a short clip from a cartoon series? Now, by the way, that cartoon is called Boondocks. That particular episode is episode 5 from season 1, just in case you're interested. Now, the reason why I decided to show that clip is because the main character, the guy, he said something rather interesting. He said that there are unknown unknowns, things we don't know that we don't know, and that's exactly what we're going to be discussing today, which is the terms zero-day vulnerabilities, zero-day exploits, and of course, zero-day attacks. Now, the terms zero-day vulnerability and zero-day exploits in particular have exploded in popularity over the past couple of weeks. And a big reason for this is because Anthropic, the AI company that created Claude, they announced only last week that their latest AI model, Claude Mythos Preview, was so powerful, was so dangerous that it could find zero-day vulnerabilities in all major web browsers and operating systems, and even create the zero-day exploits for those zero-day vulnerabilities. So naturally, a lot of people have been asking, what exactly is a zero-day vulnerability? What is a zero-day exploit? So in today's video, I'm going to explain in full detail what these terms actually mean. What is a zero-day vulnerability? What is a zero-day exploit? And also what is a zero-day attack? So let's begin. Now, before we even begin discussing what zero-day vulnerabilities are, it is first important to understand what exactly a vulnerability is. See, software applications that we use are typically made up of hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of lines of code. Now, it is very possible that the way the program was developed by its programmer may contain certain kinds of bugs or errors or even vulnerabilities. Now, the natural question you will have here is, okay, so how exactly can a software or application have a vulnerability? Like, what is that vulnerability itself? There's hundreds of different ways how vulnerabilities can be created in the code or programs that make up an application or a piece of software. I'm going to give you 2 examples. Imagine you have a program or an application that is essentially an online form. Now, in this form, the user would be asked to fill out their first name. So you'll have the text box for the first name. Now, I'm no first name expert, but I would assume that even the longest first name in the entire world may not be more than, say, 50 characters. Which is already kind of insane. So naturally, the programmer or whoever created that program would expect that, okay, when the user provides their first name in that text box, it might be 15 characters at the most, maybe an average of 10 characters and so on. But now imagine if you have a malicious user who deliberately in that text box types in a first name that is over 1,000 characters in length. Now, because the program isn't expecting such a large input from the user, that program may end up crashing as a result. So the flaw here is that the programmer did not tell the software that, hey, look, before you process the first name provided by the user, check to see if the input, if the number of characters provided by the user isn't greater than 50. If it's not greater than 50, go ahead and process. If it's greater than 50, then reject that input and tell the user to provide another first name that is less than 50 characters in length. So that would be one example. And the flaw here, again, was as a result of the programmer forgetting to tell the program that, hey, check first of all to see the length of the user's input. Another example would be a logical error. Say you have a program that once the user logs in, the program grants that user admin rights. But only after granting the user admin rights will it then check to see if that user was actually an admin in the first place. Of course, this makes no sense. The program ideally should check to see if the user is an admin first before giving them admin rights. But again, these kinds of errors and flaws and vulnerabilities exist because, again, programmers are human beings just like you and I. We make mistakes. Sometimes these programmers have to create a program very, very quickly because they're under deadlines, so they're in a rush. So there's so many different reasons why programmers end up making programs like these that have those vulnerabilities. So now that you know what vulnerabilities are and why they occur, let me now show you the life cycle of a zero-day vulnerability to it becoming patched. So right here, the very first stage is what we call the discovery stage. This is where the actual vulnerability or the flaw is discovered. Now, in this particular stage, this vulnerability can be discovered in one of three ways, okay? It could be a white hat hacker, the good guy who maybe was doing some research and accidentally uncovered that particular vulnerability. Obviously, they would inform the software creator that, hey, I found this vulnerability in your program, please fix it. Or it could also be a bug hunter. These are professionals who actively look for bugs and flaws in systems or software. And of course, when they find these flaws, they make the report and they get paid in return. But then you could also have the black hats, the cyber criminals, who discover these vulnerabilities. And when they do, this is where things get rather interesting. So the next stage here will now be the actual exploitation stage. This is where the black hat hackers, they discover the flaw. So now they'll create an exploit to take advantage of that vulnerability. Typically, this exploit will be some sort of a code or program that will take advantage of that particular exploit. Now, it's important to also understand that once this exploit has been created, it can go one of two ways, okay? Either the black hat decides that, you know what, we have the exploit, we have the weapon, let's go ahead right now and launch our attack against the target. In other instances, in other scenarios, instead of the black hats launching the attacks themselves, they may actually go onto the black market where they would sell the exploit to potential buyers. And in fact, sometimes these exploits can be so expensive. These cybercriminals make a lot of money. In fact, there was a time when the iOS exploits went as far as $2 million. So there is a huge demand for these kinds of exploits in the black market. So once the exploit is taken or has been weaponized and is now launched, that's when we now have the zero-day attack. So the window of vulnerability started with your zero-day vulnerability that's been discovered. Exploit is the zero-day exploit where the weapon is created. And now the zero-day attack is when that exploit is actually launched against the target. So because now everybody knows that, we do have this vulnerability, because the attack has been launched, the software vendors, the developers immediately begin to try to create a patch to fix that vulnerability. So right from the moment when that attack has been detected, it becomes a 0-day because the developers, the software vendors, they've essentially had no time to respond. The damage has been done already. That's why we call it a 0-day. It's a vulnerability that was unknown to the software vendors, the software programmers. That vulnerability became an exploit. The exploit eventually became an attack. So the time once that attack is detected, it becomes a 0-day. And of course, the developers, they will rush out there to try to create a patch. And once that patch has been created, that's when they will now release it to the public. And of course, the users will end up installing that particular update to mitigate the vulnerability. Now, the interesting thing here about this adoption stage is that many times you may actually have companies and organizations that use that software, and it's going to take them weeks or even months to install that update. You'll be amazed at how, let me just say, underwhelming the security practices and security policies and some of these organizations. But anyway, that's a different topic for another day. This essentially right here is the life cycle of your 0-day attack. Again, you'll have the discovery stage, the exploit stage, the attack stage, and once that attack is detected, then it becomes 0 days to respond. The software vendors, developers will rush out there to create a patch, and then once that patch is ready, they'll push it out to all the users currently using that particular application. Now, 0-day vulnerabilities or 0-day attacks are incredibly difficult to defend against because traditional security tools like your anti-malware, your antivirus, your firewalls, and so on, they typically rely on attacks or vulnerabilities that are known. If a firewall doesn't know that a particular vulnerability exists, then how will it detect that that vulnerability is being exploited? Same goes with your traditional anti-malware and your antivirus. They rely on known signatures. But again, if they don't know that what they're looking at, the file they're looking at is actually malicious, how will they then be able to remove that particular malicious file? And this is why most organizations that are very, very serious about protecting their data, the networks, how they defend against 0-day attacks would be through the use of multi-layered security tools. So they typically would apply the defense in-depth strategy where they don't rely on just one security tool. Instead, they apply multiple security controls at the same time, and they will try to detect for unusual activity or anomalous behaviors. These are the two major ways how organizations and users try to defend against 0-day attacks. Now, in closing, if you're looking for real-world examples of 0-day vulnerabilities, exploits, and attacks, I'm going to give you the 3 big ones. The first would be Stuxnet, which is the most famous 0-day ever used. It was used by both Israel and the United States to sabotage Iran's nuclear centrifuges, and it was used in not just 1, but 4 0-day exploits, which was unprecedented. Next would be the Log4 shell in 2021. This was a 0-day in a widely used Java logging library that affected millions of servers worldwide and sent the entire industry into panic mode over the weekend. And then third would be the MOVEit vulnerability of 2023, which was exploited by the CIOP ransomware gang and compromised hundreds of organizations. So 0-day vulnerabilities and 0-day exploits and 0-day attacks are nothing really new in the world of cybersecurity. And unfortunately, they're not going to go away anytime soon because we all use software, we all use applications, and the people who create these applications and software are humans. And even, yes, I know AI right now is starting to take over in creating applications and software. AI isn't also infallible. AI can also make mistakes as well. So that's pretty much it for today's video, where I have covered what exactly 0-day vulnerabilities and exploits and attacks are. So if you have any questions or comments about anything I discussed in this video, be sure to leave them down in the comment section below. If you're new here to the channel, welcome to Lab Cyber, where I discuss all things cybersecurity and AI related. So if you do enjoy content like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that you're notified whenever I upload a new video. If you enjoyed today's video, do give it a thumbs up and share the video with anyone who you feel might benefit from it. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.